as coronavirus contaminations in China proceed to rise, and as worries develop over the unwavering quality of the nation's revealing and sequencing of cases. In excess of 12 nations have declared new section limitations on explorers showing up from China when they're generally on the exit plan. The new limitations haven't gone down well in that frame of mind. In a staggering inversion started destroying its draconian zero coronavirus strategies last month following uncommon public dissent. A few nations, including the US and England, are once again introducing necessary pre-flight coronavirus tests for individuals flying from China. Others, like Japan and Italy, are requiring trying upon appearance and quarantine for the individuals who test positive. One nation, Morocco, has even chosen to boycott Section 2 all voyagers coming from China through and through in an action that will go into force on Tuesday. As China gets ready to lift its own line limitations on January 8, here are the nations that have reported their own limitations on voyagers from the nation up until this point. Italy was among quick to report new section prerequisites for voyagers showing up from China. All carrier travelers would be dependent upon obligatory testing upon appearance. Italy is the sole European country to require such testing up until this point. From January 5, explorers from China to the UK will be expected to show a negative coronavirus test taken something like 2 days preceding takeoff. Furthermore, an example of travelers will likewise be liable to testing upon appearance. From January 5, the French government reported that it will require voyagers from China to introduce a negative coronavirus test something like 48 hours before flight. Travelers will likewise be expected to wear a mask in flight and resolve to go through irregular testing on appearance. U.S. will require voyagers showing up from China, Hong Kong, and Macau to introduce a negative coronavirus test taken something like 2 days before their takeoff. The new limitations, which come full circle on January 3, come in the midst of rising worries over China's absence of straightforwardness over its flare-up as well as its inability to track and arrangement variations inside the nation sufficiently. From January 5, all air voyagers beyond 2 years old showing up Canada from China, Hong Kong, and Macau will be expected to give a negative coronavirus test something like 2 days before their flight or confirmation of a new coronavirus disease. Concealing in flight will be emphatically suggested, yet entirely not needed. On December 30, the Malaysian government reported that it will start screening all inbound explorers from China and somewhere else for fever, and will regulate the individuals who are recognized to have a fever or different side effects with a coronavirus test. The public authority said it would likewise test wastewater on airplanes showing up from China in a bid to distinguish new variations. Israel reported on December 30 that generally non-Israeli voyagers showing up from China would be likely to pre-flight PCR tests required in somewhere around 72 hours before departure. From January 3, the Spanish government will require explorers showing up from China to give a negative coronavirus test or verification of inoculation. For the last option, Madrid said that it would acknowledge any antibody perceived by the WHO. From January 5, explorers from China will be expected to go through a coronavirus test when showing up. South Korea likewise said that it would likewise limit giving transient visas for Chinese nationals for the rest of the month and briefly stop expanding trips between the adjoining nations. Japan, which was among the principal nations to force new passage prerequisites, has from December 30 expected that all explorers from China barring Hong Kong and Macau submit to testing on appearance. The individuals who test positive will be expected to isolation for 7 days. From January 3, all voyagers from China paying little mind to ethnicity will be restricted from entering Morocco. The declaration, which came only days before the boycott was expected to be forced, is the strictest measure yet taken by any country in light of China's flood in cases. From January 5, individuals going from China, Hong Kong, and Macau to Australia will be expected to show a negative coronavirus test required in something like 48 hours preceding travel. As of January 1, India reported that it will require explorers showing up China and Hong Kong, as well as Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and Thailand, to give confirmation of a negative coronavirus test something like 72 hours preceding takeoff. The Indian government recently declared that it would likewise start testing 2% of global appearances for coronavirus at arbitrary. From January 3, all voyagers showing up Qatar from China should present the negative coronavirus test in the span of 48 hours of takeoff. no matter what their immunization status.